Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Olson from the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Podcast. I've been working with Julia for almost 100 episodes now, and she has really helped me grow my podcast from basically just my parents, my husband and kids, and my sister as listeners to over 17,000 downloads. I mean, the amount that she expanded my audience went way beyond my expectations. She really blew my mind. I have quadrupled the number of downloads over the past 12 months. Julia has been so much more than just my podcast teacher. She has been like a partner to me, really taking an interest in my program and helping me more than I ever could have asked for. I highly recommend Julia.
How amazing is that? I am so grateful that Dr. Lisa shared her experience. And if her story resonated with you and you're thinking, wait, I want results like that too, that is exactly what we're doing inside the Podcast Growth Collective. It's the place for online business owners who want to turn podcasting into a powerful growth tool without the burnout and without guessing what to fix. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and finally start seeing results from your podcast, I would love to support you. Head to thepodcastteacher.com/collective to learn more and to join us. And now let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to Podcasting for Introverts. I'm Julia Levine, aka the Podcast Teacher. I'm a fellow introvert, entrepreneur, and educator. If you want to start a podcast and expand your reach without social media, this is the show for you. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome back. Today is the start of a new type of episode that I'll be incorporating occasionally on the show going forward. It's a podcast optimization plan. This is where I evaluate a current podcast at the host's request and identify a few specific changes to make in order to optimize the podcast's impact and potential. This idea of a podcast optimization plan came from my recent journey to become a certified podcast growth coach. I'm so close to being certified. I cannot wait to share the news when that happens. But our instructor encouraged us to do podcast audits, which is exactly the same thing, evaluating a podcast and identifying areas for improvement, except I feel like the word audit has a really negative connotation. It makes me think of a tax audit. And no matter how meticulously accurate you are on your taxes, no one really wants to be audited. So I came up with the idea to call it a podcast optimization plan instead of a podcast audit. And then I also get to use a really fun acronym, POP. Let's create a podcast optimization plan to make your podcast pop. So much more fun than audit, right? Anyway, so that's what this new style of episode is. If you'd like to chat with me about how we can make your podcast pop, you can schedule your own free call with me at thepodcastteacher.com/pop. Today, I'm chatting with Greg about his brand new podcast, Freedom Before Fi. And you get to be a fly on the wall for the conversation. As you listen to my analysis of Greg's podcast and how he can optimize it, my hope is that you'll be able to take away some new insights for your own show. The first thing that I want to say right off the bat is just that your show is great. Really great.
Oh, all right. Okay.
This is my first one of these calls, and I, have been studying about evaluating podcasts, giving people coaching on how to grow and whatnot. And so I pulled up your podcast and I listened to 4 different episodes, and I was like, what am I going to What am I going to tell him?
Seriously, that's really funny because I'm like that. I'll just tell you like a bit of a background. What's really funny is while I'm like, what I find that really interesting is because I've done zero marketing. Literally, I haven't done anything. I was speaking to one of my friends and I said, well, I'll just because this is more of like a creative outlet that I'm experimenting with. And I said to them, we discussed, and I said to him, why don't I just do like 10 episodes just to get a hang of it, see if I enjoy the process, see if I like it. If I do like it, I'll continue it and then I could try marketing it. But that's why I haven't done any marketing because I'm like, the delivery sounds a bit weird. I sound too scripted. I was like, oh, that was really cringy. I just cringe every time I listen to it. That's why I just needed like an expert ear like yourself to give some tips and guidance, really.
Yeah. It's totally normal for you to react that way to your own show. I react that way to my show, and it's completely normal. But like I said, I couldn't listen to everything, but I listened to 4 different episodes. I listened to the first 2, and then I think it was the last 2, or close to the last 2. And it's so clear that you know your content and you have a lot of wisdom to share. Your episodes are well structured, they're easy to follow. You have a nice mix of factual information, but also examples and personal stories in there. And I really like your episode length. They're pretty short and sweet to the point. I know that you seem to have some concerns about your speaking and delivery of it. And really, it's pretty darn good.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so those first couple episodes, I could tell you were a little stiff, maybe a little nervous in the beginning. As you've gone on, particularly those later episodes that I listened to, the inflection, the enthusiasm in your voice has really picked up as those later episodes, and that makes total sense. You're getting more comfortable, you're getting more natural at it. So just keep that up. And I think that will continue to evolve. I know you mentioned you were scripting. And as someone who scripts as well, it can be hard to make it sound more natural and not
Yeah.
as stiff and dry. So, my tip there is just, practicing the script, a time or two before you record it for real. And then kind of imagining that you are on stage or you're in front of a group of friends or something like that, not to get the nerves to kick in, but to be like, when you're just talking one-on-one with someone, you're not naturally as like putting on your presenter persona as you would be if you're
Yeah.
presenting to a group. And so really just taking that up a couple notches, and especially because they can't see you on a podcast. Your voice is the only thing expressing emotion, expressing enthusiasm, varying the conversation, the variety of speech. And so just kind of taking it up a couple notches has helped me personally. I kind of sit down in front of the microphone and I put on my imaginary like speaker hat that I'm up on stage. And so I sit here and I try and talk with my hands as if I'm over exaggerating pretty much. And it feels silly to do that when you're by yourself alone in the studio.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
But it comes through in the microphone and it really helps. So I don't think you have a ton of work to do there, but since, that was one point that you really mentioned being concerned about, I thought I'd give you those couple tips.
Do you think it's obvious that mine is scripted? That's why it needs a bit of work? Or do you think people care or curious on your thoughts of, I think that's my main issue. I feel like it's scripted and it doesn't engage. It's not engaging. It's what.
Okay, so let me flip the question around to you. Does it bother you that my show is scripted?
Not at all. No, yeah, that's
There
a good
you go.
point. Yeah.
Because I'm giving you the information and that's the most important piece, right?
Yeah.
So if you were listening to a comedy show, obviously you wouldn't want that to be scripted because you're listening for the purposes of entertainment.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to learn something, you're listening for the information, it doesn't really matter so much how it is presented. Now, of course, you don't want to feel like you're learning from a robot, you want to feel like there's a human talking to you in your ear. So that's where that little bit of inflection enthusiasm comes in and does play an important part. But I think it's totally fine to have it scripted, as you know, I do. And that helps our delivery, right? Like it helps us stay on track. We're not rambling or losing our train of thought.
Yeah.
And it helps us get the information across in a very clear and concise way, which is the whole goal, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it saves a bit on editing as well, doesn't it?
That too.
All right. So yeah, as you said, just take it up a notch. Just one quick one before we move off on that one. How did you practice taking up a notch? Because you know when you're the inflections and things like that. Because even when I'm doing it now, I feel like it's really exaggerated already. So I'm wondering, how did you take it up that bit further in your perspective and experience?
So you may or may not know that I have a background as an elementary school teacher. And so I was the librarian. And so for 12 years, I read books out loud to children.
Right.
And so when you've got, a room full of 5-year-olds and you have to keep their attention, you get really good at like being dramatic and doing the voices and all of that stuff.
Right.
So I've had
That's
a
really
lot of
interesting.
practice in that area. So yeah. So again, I don't think that your delivery is bad by any means. I'd say you're probably at, 85, 90% of what I would ideally want it to be. So you have just the tiniest bit of improvement to work on, growth to do there. And, being introverts, we tend to be overthinkers. We tend to be perfectionists. And so I hope that you're hearing me say, you are really good at this. And there's just a tiny bit of improvement to get to that really top notch.
Got it.
Yeah. And then I really love the personal anecdotes that you put in there, your own experiences. I know, at least for myself as an introvert, I kind of hesitate to put myself into the podcast.
Oh my gosh, definitely.
I hear from people all the time that resonates with them the most. I should do more of that, but it's hard. And so in case it's hard for you too,
yeah,
I'm going to be the voice saying, that's good. Keep doing that.
Oh, okay.
I loved how you told your personal story of being, in the geo arbitrage. I loved how you talked about your father's work experience, retirement experience, date nights with your wife, your favorite part of your week, like all of that. It makes you a human that's sharing the information,
Yeah. Okay. No, good point there.
And so I think that, you're doing so many things so well in this show. And I think the only thing that's kind of holding you back is that it's not 100% clear immediately who this show is for.
Yeah.
And so, you and I are obviously in a different situation because you directly gave me the podcast. I didn't stumble upon it. And I'm looking at it obviously with a professional lens, but I'm looking at it. I'm not a finance person. I had absolutely no idea what FI stood for. I actually pronounced it fee. At first I was like, what is freedom before fee? What is this? And then I'm trying to gather context from the cover art and I'm going, okay, palm tree. And I also looked and I noticed that your category is self-improvement. And then I read your description and it's FI and you say financial independence. I'm like, oh, okay, there we go. That answers the question, what that is. And then I'm looking at it going, okay, so this is like a finance show. but it's in the self-improvement category. And I've got my palm tree here on the front. And so I think there's a little bit of clarity that could be done around the messaging.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm assuming that your target audience knows what FI is.
Yeah. There's a few like podcast, like one of the biggest podcasts out there is called Choose FI.
Yes.
There's a few of them with FI and stuff like that. So in the financial independent, like in the community, it's a well-known sort of acronym.
Yes.
So in my mind, I'm thinking if someone that's already in the community that knows it, because I've been trying to niche down, because like finance is such a broad thing.
Mhm.
I tried to niche down as much as I can, and that's how I came to it. It was like, because there's I'm trying to capture an audience that's going to like on that path to like financial independence, but kind of burning out on the way there, and they want to feel elements of freedom before they get there. So that's but I totally get what you're saying, because a friend of mine said the same thing. They're like, what's FI? What does that mean?
Uh-huh.
But I had to explain to them. So I totally get that as an outsider.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe there's a few things like tweaks I could do. For example, maybe even put financial independence on the cover art so it's clear what FI actually means as well, or something along those lines.
Yes. Okay. So I'm glad you clarified that you're kind of targeting the people who already know what this is.
Yeah.
And my guess is, or you actually just said it, that you're trying to kind of convince them, hey, you don't have to be like miserable on this journey to do this. Here, let me show you kind of an alternative perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
So these people are searching things like FIRE, financial independence, investing, things like that, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So I think there's two things that you can do in particular to make this even more clear. So the first thing is to add a subtitle to your title. So when we're talking about a subtitle, this is purely for search purposes, for the robots behind the scenes. You don't ever have to say this phrase. You don't have to put it on your cover art. You don't have to do anything with it other than just slap it into the title field. But you want to cram some keywords in there.
Okay.
So looking at some of the stuff that you had in your description, I looked at the opt-in for your Substack page. And so I haven't quite gotten a like beautiful version of it, but I came up with freedom before FI, finding purpose and joy on your journey to financial independence, early retirement, FIRE, put that acronym in the title field,
Yeah.
through earning, saving, investing, and geo arbitrage. Geo arbitrage isn't a highly competitive term.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
So like investing, if you're looking at the keyword investing, there are so many podcasts that are trying to address the topic of investing. So it's highly competitive. Geo arbitrage, there's not a ton of content out there about that. There's some, but if you put that in your title and someone is searching that word, you're likely to pop up in the search results because it's not as competitive of a term.
Yeah.
And I have some notes here that I will send to you in an email because
perfect.
I know,
I was going to say.
I know I'm kind of rattling some stuff off.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, so putting some keywords after your main part of your title just for the purposes of search. So think whatever your target audience is going to be typing into their search bar.
Yep. Okay.
Put that in to your title field.
Okay.
And kind of along those same lines, when we're talking about your cover, I think it's fine if you don't have financial independence spelled out on the cover, partially because those are really long words and they're going to take up a lot of space.
Yeah, take up a lot of real estate on there.
Yes. But on your current cover, all of the words are the same size and the same color. So what I would recommend is you need to make the FI pop somehow.
Okay.
And so I think that was the podcast that you were referring to as a big one in the niche where it has FI like huge on the cover in like a speech bubble or something.
Yeah.
So obviously don't copy their exact design, but that's the kind of thing that you want. You want FI to like slap them in the face when they see your cover. That's the first thing their eye should see.
Right, okay.
So you can accomplish that by making the other word smaller and making that FI bigger. You can make the FI in a different color, or both. You can make it bigger and in a different color, put a box around it, put a shadow behind it, something to make it really stand out.
Make it pop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was so nice to meet you. Thank you again for being a fan of the show. I hope this call was helpful and not too overwhelming.
No, really helpful, and I appreciate your time.
All right, that's all for today. If you'd like to chat with me about how we can make your podcast pop, you can schedule your own free call with me at thepodcastteacher.com/pop. Until next week, happy podcasting. Thanks for listening. If something in this episode resonated with you and you're thinking about starting your own podcast, I have a free resource that will help you. It's called The Podcast Roadmap: 10 Simple Steps to Launch Your Own Podcast, No Fancy Tech Required. Just head to thepodcastteacher.com/roadmap to grab it.